Jayanthi Kuruthumpala was born on the 3rd of September 1979 in the town of Colombo. She received her education at Bishop's College, Colombo, displaying exceptional skill and talent in both educational and outdoor sporting activities. Jayanthi went on to pursue her diploma in journalism. Subsequently, she went on to become a gender equality activist, working across the island. Her travels took her to India, where she pursued a Bachelor of Arts degree in English. Climbing the Himalayas was on Jayanthi's bucket list. In 2003, Jayanthi pursued her first basic course in mountaineering at the Himalayan Mountaineering Institute and fulfilled her lifelong dream of literally learning the ropes to mountain climbing. This was just the beginning, which led her to succeeding in her lifelong dream, climbing Mount Everest.
Hi, I'm Jayanthi.
And I'm Yohan.
And we are here at Everest Base Camp at a height of 5,300 meters. And we've been here now, we've been on this expedition for the past 1.5 months.
We will let you know as soon as the good news comes along.
This is the Everest Expedition.
Well, she climbed 8,850 meters, not only to make a mark for her life, but a mark for the entire population of Sri Lanka, for every Sri Lankan. She not only became the first Sri Lankan national to climb Mount Everest, but the first Sri Lankan woman to climb Mount Everest. He was a fashion icon, a stylist who was well known in the Colombo fashion circle for his talent of hair cutting and so on, and now he has made a mark in climbing mountains. Well, I'm joined by none other than Jayanthi Kuruthumpala and Yohan here with me on our special program. Welcome and congratulations on your achievement.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Well, Jayanthi, climbing the mountain is one of very few obstacles in life when you take the grand scheme of things that happen in life. Just walk us through your journey. How was life before Everest?
Before Everest, well, if I just talk about my career, my work, the work I've been doing before Everest has been working for gender equality, trying to look at women's rights and empowerment. And I feel that, as you may know, within that sphere, it's quite a challenging job because there have been some gains made, but at the same time it's been quite challenging to stop or to end violence against women, for example. But I feel our society is changing, and I feel there's a lot of hope for women and girls in this country. I feel there's, whether I'm a woman or a man, the support has been fantastic, and the wishes and congratulatory statements. So life has changed after Everest in terms of the fact that this entire thing is now a huge thing. But I do hope that this will also inspire other girls and women to step out, step forward.
And for you, Yohan, life before Everest, how exactly was it?
It doesn't connect the two together, being outdoor. I think most of the hairdressers and fashion designers, it's more city life that they look to, and the parties and the fashion and the glamour. That's what it is. This is slightly different. It's climbing mountains. You know, it's less glamorous.
More dangerous.
It's more dangerous.
How exactly did you all meet, and how did you all find that perfect chemistry? That it takes a lot to climb all the way, and you need that support system. How exactly did you find that in each other?
So I think 5 years ago, I had heard about Yohan and a few of his friends who were going to go and climb a mountain called Island Peak, also in Nepal, which is 6,200 meters. And this mutual friend of ours knew how crazy I was about mountains and said, do you want me to introduce you to Yohan and his friends? And I said, yes, because there aren't too many people doing mountaineering in Sri Lanka, you know. So I jumped at the idea, and then I met Yohan, and then with his friends, I joined his friends to do this trek to this journey, expedition to Island Peak. And that was a successful expedition.
Well, I spoke about obstacles before, where there are avalanches, crevices, and so many other impediments on your way to the top of the mountain, right? So how exactly did you all find that strength? There's a lot of strength that you all need to master, because it's not only just physical, it's just mental, physical, psychology should be great. Knowing that there were a lot of deaths reported, how exactly did you all make your way to the top?
It's a huge mental challenge, first of all. Yeah, that's your first barrier, I think, that you need to get over.
And even on the mountain, I think when we were both sort of depressed at different times, you know, just like, this is so hard, how are we going to get through this? And there were lots of moments like that. I know I had many of them. I know that for me as a team, that's why Yohan was just, you know, encouraging, you know, be positive, we can do this. So I think that's where teamwork also comes in, despite all those hardships and challenges, that as a team we could encourage each other on. And I know that that's really something that got us up to where we
had
did.
to keep each other going, actually, right throughout the whole journey.
And also find maybe jokes in between, like look at the funny side of life, even though it was so difficult, you know. Look for the funny things and sort of try and laugh it off, because you don't want to be crying all the time.
And did you all have any near-death experiences on your way?
I had one on the way back down, which is after the summit, coming back down. You're still on Everest, on the main mountain, and there's a point at which your oxygen cylinder has to be changed. Your Sherpa, who's with you all the time, he does that. Unfortunately, though, the cylinder that was stored at the balcony, a place called the balcony, which is on the mountain, which is my old cylinder, the regulator had frozen up. So normally it's like a 2-3 minute thing. You change the regulator, take the thing out of the bag, change the regulator, put it back in the backpack, and you're ready to go. But this took longer than expected, and suddenly I was sitting there on a block of ice, and I was like breathing heavily and just whacking my hands. I don't know what I was doing, but I just thought it was over, because I couldn't even explain to him that I can't breathe. I couldn't talk, I couldn't do anything. But he obviously knew, so he was trying to do it quickly, and thankfully I don't know how long it took, but at some point he put it back and I was like, I can breathe again. But that was a bit scary, because it just shows how frail your body is also. It's anyway dying at that time, at that height. It starts consuming your muscles, it eats your fat, it just starts eating itself up. And at that point, you just realize, gosh, we're so tiny in this whole picture, you know, we're like ants up there.
And Jayanthi, I recall you, after some point, Yohan was unable to join you. That whole absence of the support system, how bad did you feel it?
Well, it was difficult, because normally our Sherpa, they have a walkie-talkie. My Sherpa had lost his voice by this time. So there was not much communication happening between him and, he did mention when we got to the summit, back to base camp, he radioed in. But I couldn't hear any of the other information coming through the radios. Normally you can hear, okay, so-and-so, something is not working, so they're turning back. So-and-so is not well, they're turning back. You can hear it on the Sherpa radio. But I couldn't hear anything, and I kept wondering, because our plan was, I would leave at 8, he would leave at 9, and at some point we'll meet on the summit, hopefully. But so I got up there, and then I started turning back down, and I thought I'll meet Yohan. But I just didn't, and I kept wondering what's happened. I didn't know what had happened. My Sherpa was rushing back down. You had to rush back pretty much before your oxygen ends as well. So it was sort of like a race running down this mountain, but you don't want to fall. And I only met Yohan back at Camp 4. He had also by that time got back. And I was also quite gutted when I heard about what had happened, because things are beyond your control that also prevent you from getting to the top a lot of the times.
And what exactly happened, Yohan, on your way to the top?
I think what really happened was we get to this point called the balcony, and then we change our oxygen tank into a new oxygen tank. And then we start proceeding from there. But that particular day was a good day. The weather was really good. And there were lots of teams that were summiting that day as well. So there was quite a crowd on the mountain, all making it to the summit. And we had the Indian Army team also that was there, and a few of the other teams as well. And they were actually delaying. They were delaying, and sometimes you're just hanging on a rope behind a crowd, and you can't get beyond them. Yeah, you can't bypass them and go. So there were many delays on the way, and mostly due to those delays, we got to this point beyond the balcony, and then they told me that they checked my oxygen tank, and they told me I got to the south summit, just below the south summit, which is 8,400 meters. And then they suddenly checked my oxygen tank and told me, you're running out of oxygen. You will be able to get up, but you can't come back. And I was completely devastated at that time, because I was fit. I had the energy. There was nothing wrong with me at that point. I was ready to go, but this was beyond my control. So it was a tough. It was, I think, one of the hardest decisions of my life and hardest moments of my life. A decision-making time for me.
Well, I was talking to your mother earlier, and she very happily she recollected one of her past memories of the Alagal experience. You really need to tell us about it, and our viewers are anxiously waiting to know what this is. To find out, let's go in for a short commercial break, and we'll be back soon. But before the break, I mentioned to you about the Alagal experience. When I was talking to your mother earlier, she recollected how exactly that Alagal experience turned out. And before I just fill in, I think you should explain to us what exactly happened. You went missing during that time.
Yeah, we got a little bit lost, let's say. This was way back in 98, I think, 98 or 99, when I was working at the Daily Mirror. And a few friends of us, about 4 of us, 3 of us decided to climb Alagalla, which is a common mountain that a lot of people climb. But we wanted to be a bit adventurous, so we didn't take the footpath up, and we made our own path to go to the top, which is easy going up because you can see the rock at the top and the Dagaba. So we just cut our way through the Mana grass and just went up. And on our way back, we thought we'll get back on the path, but we couldn't find the path. So we kept coming down and then thinking, oh, here's a path, and then there was no path, and turning back. And after some time we thought, that's when we admitted, oh gosh, okay, we're lost. So back at home there was chaos because it was a day trip. We took a train to Kandy, climb, come back and get back in the same
And
train.
how old were you then, Jayanthi?
Just finished school, so maybe 19 or 20. There were 2 girls and 2 guys. So eventually though, and then my parents had called the police, and the police had said, who goes up Alagalla, because it's a rainy season. So that didn't help either. So my parents were more worried. But I think what we learned was that we need to take enough food, enough water, and a compass. After that experience, I always carried a compass.
So those were the baby steps you took before Everest.
Baby steps for sure, definitely.
And there's always an anthem before you do something. There's this one sentence that runs in your mind over and over again, or a song or anything just to keep you going. I'm sure you both have the same sort of experience, or that anthem that you all would always recite to yourselves. What is that in your life?
Well, when climbing this, for me, of course, sometimes I kept thinking of the song. It's an old song, climb every mountain, follow every dream, and that was exactly what I kept thinking. And also the other song from Flashdance, what a feeling. It's about take your passion and make it happen. There's another one, because that's what life is about, right? Life is short. If we don't live our dreams, what's the point?
And Jayanthi, when you were climbing Mount Everest and you came down and you conquered Mount Everest, would you like to see it as conquering the mountain, or was it like a give and take kind of experience?
That's a good question, because I think what we said before we went on this expedition was also something that Edmund Hillary, I quoted a line from Edmund Hillary, who was the first man to climb Mount Everest. And what he said is, it is not the mountain that we conquer, but ourselves. So I strongly feel that conquering a mountain, when you say that, it's a bit arrogant, to be honest, because nature is really bigger than us. The mountain, that mountain is big. All those mountains are, the Himalayas are just, and it's also a spiritual space. It's just, you just feel there's so much going on, there's such a force out there. And in turn, what I would do is really ask the mountain. Chomolungma is a name that the Nepali give. I just kept saying, please let us climb you, we've come so far, we respect you, we just want to climb to the top, come back down safely. And I think it's also respecting nature, and not thinking that we're bigger than nature, because we're really tiny. When you go out there, you see how small you are. Yeah.
And when you broke the news for your mom, like on the phone, that you actually climbed it and you went to the top, I'm sure that you felt that you would have been really emotional over the fact that you didn't have your father to break the news or to tell him. How exactly was that playing in your mind?
That was a difficult time. So I did take a photograph of my parents, because my father was an inspiration for me. In terms of outdoor sports, he was always someone who gave me wings. So did my mother. But I think just that Ammi was very worried a lot of the times. But my brother and I call her a warrior because she worries a lot. But Tati would, I think, always say, no, like rock climbing, mountaineering, whitewater rafting. He's like, okay, be safe as long as you're safe. And you do like learn about safety. So if you're rafting, then get a life jacket properly, you know. If you want to go surfing, buy a life jacket. So it's always the safety aspect if you want to do adventure sports. So I always, I did miss him, but I know he was with me on the mountain.
And even when you were climbing, was he the support system that kept you going?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And also, Yohan, if you can maybe tell us how exactly was the whole journey for you, because you went up to base camp 4, right? Camp 4, which is, if you can just explain to us in layman terms what exactly that is. And they also call it the death zone, is that right?
Yeah, so you get to camp 4, and that beyond that point is called dead zone, because I think the oxygen level is about 30%, yeah, of the normal oxygen level that you get. So that's called the dead zone. And they say in the movie also, if you had watched the movie Everest, they say that your body dies, your body starts dying. So it really does. It starts eating in, yeah. Your body is being eaten up because it's consumed, yeah, because of the less oxygen. And yes, it is really the death zone, and you need the oxygen. You have to keep oxygen even when you're sleeping. You are sleeping with oxygen. And yeah, so I got beyond that point. We both set off from that point. Camp 4 wasn't the last point, but that's the point where you set off to the summit. And we set off from that point, and I got to 8,400 meters from there, which is just below the south summit. And it is 300 meters below the summit, but even that feels like really the top of the world when you're standing there. You're looking at it with one side, there's Nepal, and the other side is Tibet. And everything that you see around there, except for the peak, is below you. So you are literally standing on top of the world.
How exactly was that feeling? Because knowing that you were literally on top of the world, they say that you become a believer that God is there and creation is real. And how was that experience for you when you went right to the top? I don't think you were able to see anything because of the clouds, but the whole serene nature in its truest form, how exactly would you describe it?
Well, words cannot describe it, is how I can say it. I mean, but it was an unbelievable feeling. Just to look around you and having the moon come up on one side, or maybe it was up, I think the moon was full moon. So on one side, when you're walking on this final ridge around the Hillary Step, just the last bit, about the last half an hour to the summit, or 1 hour to the summit, the moon on one side and the sun was just coming up on the other side, and just standing right there at the top was just unbelievable. It was just a remarkable moment. I think more than any photograph, I'll just have it in my memory for as long as I live, I suppose. It's just something I'll never forget. And I think definitely it's, as I said earlier, the mountains are just so big. Everything around you is so enormous and also so unpredictable. You can just be at the wrong time, in the wrong place, have an avalanche, and you're out. You're dead, you know, you can just lose your life. And that's why I think it's easier, or maybe, I mean, I think I was also probably more spiritual out there, because you know, the mountains, the force, you feel that there is something out there, you know, that you can't see or feel. but it's amazing.
Jayanthi, you're one of very few women who climbed the Everest. Am I right if I say out of 500?
Yeah, there's less than 500.
Less than 500. Did you even know that you will be one of 500 women to climb Everest?
I didn't think of all those statistics, to be honest. It was, as I said, a dream, and we achieved it together as a team. So at that point, all I could look at was the view and just think about the fact that, wow, I'm actually here. I couldn't believe it. I was really just over the moon, pretty much. Close to the moon. Yeah.
She had kept on talking about this when she was little. When she was about 7 or 8 years, she had been on a tambili tree or a kundira tree at home, mind you, which is also quite tall, and mind you, without the ring even. So like that, I knew her desire was for this, but we didn't take much notice of it till it really happened. It was like another day, and of course, when I heard about it, I really missed my husband because he's not here. Unfortunately, he's not here to share the joy with me. I had faith in God and confidence in Jayanthi, my daughter. So that is the thing that kept me going. Many people called and asked me, "My Jacinta, how is it that you are how is it that you allowed your daughter to go up?" And then I told her, well, it's just that I have faith in God and confidence in her. But when she told just now about this, how her cylinder of oxygen gave way, my heart skipped a beat again. But thank God I know she's here safe and sound. So, well, that's how it is. It's only prayer, confidence and faith.
So will you go back?
Not to Everest, but definitely to the Himalayas. I know that one day, I'm sure Yohan would also, I hope he'll join me, but I think as a team it would be nice to go back to the Himalayas, Nepali or Indian, but Everest, I think I'm very glad I did it, and that ends there.
And you, Yohan, would you go back and maybe...
Not to the Himalayas. I think I've not to Everest, because I think we've done our bit and we've conquered. I don't think I'll go through that same journey again. I'd rather look at something different and take on another challenge.
So have you drawn inspiration from the Everest to add to your collection of...
Not yet, but right now it's too soon. We've just come back. But I'm sure I'll come up with something.
If there's one person you all would like to thank at this moment, one person, who would it be?
Well, for me it would be my father, for giving me the wings to do this.
And you?
It would be my dad as well, because he's the one who actually got me started on this whole thing.
And since you're an activist, Jay, is this a form of activism?
It might be, well, I think it can be.
You trying to get something across to the society. You have been such a huge inspiration, so have you, Yohan, and women in particular, thank you for what you did, and we are really proud of you. And also during that time was during the floods actually. It was a ray of hope. It was quite refreshing to know that you all made it, and we were very happy over the fact that you all made it to the top. But you all didn't know about this until after you all came right to the feet of the mountain. Would you like to maybe describe to us about the whole scenario?
Yes, I mean, as a woman I'm really extremely proud, and this is seen as now a form of activism, I think, by many, and I'm very glad about that, because it is a message also, and I think that was also my motivation, was also just to show that women can also do this, and we were both there as a team, but women can also do this, and gender, your size, your gender does not matter. If you put your mind to it, you can achieve it, and we know that there are barriers in society for women, so I just hope that we can all together as a society, men and women, girls and boys, can remove these barriers, because it just prevents women from following their dreams or reaching their heights maximum. So and having come back down and seen the response, it's just been hugely overwhelming, unbelievable, just so much support for both of us, Facebook, social media, just media, mainstream media. It's just amazing. It's unbelievable. It's amazing. Yeah.
And if you can maybe explain to us what exactly happened. There was a cyclone, is it?
Yeah, there was, it's called the jet stream that is over the Himalayas, over Everest. And jet stream is the power of the wind. And it was quite strong. It was about 40 knots. And that needed to clear, so we were there for about 5 days waiting for it to clear up. And there was a depression building up on the Bay of Bengal. And what happened was the depression turned into a cyclone, and the cyclone pushed off the jet stream and cleared the way for us to go up. But sadly, the cyclone turned towards Sri Lanka, and the cyclonic conditions went over here, and that's what brought in all the disaster. So we had no idea that had happened, and they didn't even tell us because they didn't want to upset us, because they knew that it would upset us. So we were devastated when we actually heard about the news.
4 days later, yeah.
Yeah.
So Jayanthi and Yohan, what sort of advice would you like to give our viewers, whoever would like to climb the Everest?
Well, if you would like to climb Everest, you definitely go for it and do it, but take it seriously. I think Yohan had also mentioned this earlier. It's not something to take lightly, because it is a life and death situation out there. And do your homework, do your background, but also train, maybe do some courses in mountaineering, which I had done many years ago, which I know helped me even up there this year. Passionate about something and determined to do it, then you can do it. So it's a lot to do with your mental condition of just thinking positive and being strong in your mind, and then you can achieve it. So if you have a dream, go for it, follow your dreams. You've got one life after all.
And you have?
And I would like to say, yes, chase after your dreams, just don't dream it, but go after it and do it. And now there are the two of us who can always help you,
Yes.
and give you guidance, give anybody guidance to sort of, fulfill their dreams. If their dream is to climb Everest, we are there. We would love to help. We would love to do everything, share our experiences, and tell them what needs to be done to fulfill their dreams.
Thank you very much for joining us, and it was a great program and a great conversation, and I hope you all keep inspiring people and extending your vibes, your good vibes to others, encouraging everyone around you. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much all our viewers for joining us today, and I hope you all were inspired, and like Yohan and Jayanthi said, inspire and believe. And today we conclude this show with that message. Good night.